Welcome to Subject to Change, a sustainability podcast. There we go. Looks like you're connected.
Hallelujah!
Yay!
We're speaking with Suzanne Maloney about her passion for gardening.
I was on your website poking around. I'm so excited for this discussion.
So I am terrible at sitting still, and
Yes.
Jody will attest to that.
Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. When you see the little microphone in the lower right, click on that to learn more. We're so glad you're here.
I love to learn things. So I love to meet new people. I love to learn from them. And when COVID happened, my inability to sit still kicked in. And the way I manage stress is I get physically busy. Mm-hmm. And a dream always was to show people, I get very frustrated with people that say, I don't know how I could do that. It just seems like so much work. I beg your pardon. Let me show you. Don't say that. It's like saying you can't do it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you found your peeps right here. I think Lauren and I, neither of us is good at sitting still, and we discovered this endeavor because of COVID. So I suspect that's where you're heading with your story. COVID opened the door for you, right?
That's exactly what happened. It was like everything came to a standstill, and everybody was going, oh my God, I'm so bored. I can't take it anymore. And I was having the best time of my life.
Same.
Ordering dirt.
I was like, what is wrong with you? Do you not have any hobbies or anything? I mean, my God. And how, to admit that out loud too is just wow. But at any rate, I started ordering dirt. Actually, to be more specific, compost.
Okay. All right. We just have to say that out loud once more. She started ordering dirt.
I did.
You're making me laugh too hard.
And then I hauled it all up the hill. My house is downhill from this sloping place, and it had flooded, and it was on clay. It was a typical 1954 house. They scraped off anything of value and put a house on it. I have blackberries and blueberries and raspberries and cherry trees and asparagus. These are just the perennials. Asparagus and horseradish and what else do I have out there? Oh, rhubarb, one of my favorites, strawberries. And then in terms of vegetables, I was like, I tried everything. This year was a struggle because it was so bizarre. It rained really hard, then it dried out really long, and then it rained really hard again.
Mm-hmm. COVID and florists.
I also have a background in floriculture. Way back, I had a small business that I grew and dried flowers and sold them. And so the floral industry took a big hit because of COVID, a lot of their product. And here's where here's the hook for the average person. Their product comes from Brazil and South Africa and Holland. Yep. And it comes on passenger planes. It doesn't come in ships or any of that. Right. It has to come quickly and in small batches comparatively.
Yeah.
And they were just burning and burying their crops because they couldn't get them to the marketplace.
Wow. Yeah.
But people were still hungry to buy flowers and send them to their loved ones because it was like their connection to them. Traditionally, the floral industry is very competitive. They don't like to tell their secrets. They don't want somebody else stealing their business. Mm-hmm. And they sure don't talk about where they get their product because, that's competitive too.
Suzanne's 10 green thumbs.
I'm an idiot savant where things grow. I can just make it so. I don't know why. So I took one of the hardest flowers to grow, and I read everything on it, and they kept saying it's so hard to grow. It's just the most, and they give you all. I found all these places that give you all this advice, and I put the seeds in the soil and put them under lights on a heat mat, and they grew. And
which flower is the hardest?
Lisianthus.
Lisianthus.
It looks like a rose.
So you're a Lisianthus mama.
I'm a Lysianthus mama, and they just, I cut my last crop last night, just before the
Oh,
frost,
gosh.
in the
Yeah,
dark
because it's
with a
gonna freeze
headlamp on.
tonight, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. So you've said so many things. I have this tiny little backyard, and I've always been wondering who I could have over to advise me on the nice brown spots that keep appearing on my pear trees, and the fact that I want to container grow some vegetables, but we're very shady.
This neighborhood looks like the Brady Bunch repeated. You know, the houses are the
Split
big roof.
level,
Yeah, the
green
split level.
paint.
That's it. Yep, that's it. That's exactly. And so you see a lot of people. And when I got my chickens 7 years ago, and I have 9,
So cool.
and I got them because it was all clay soil, not because so much I wanted eggs or chickens, but I needed something that was going to help me break up the soil.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So the
cool.
chickens were it, and I have had them ever since. So I have 9 chickens, and probably 2/3 of an acre all planted.
Wow.
On the downhill side, I have row crops of flowers, and I grew, and the bees were amazing this year. I planted Monarda, and it was the pink spotted Monarda
Okay.
that is a native species, and they just went nuts. I did the queen series, the queen lime rose and queen lime red, and they're beautiful. They're like the green is in the flower, but it's touched, the inside of it is like that rose color or that deep red color. So the ends are green, and the inside is this, oh, it was just gorgeous.
You're not just in it for the flowers, you see all the system connections, and you see life.
That was the main point. The main point was that the lawn was the worst thing we've ever done.
Infectious Improvements.
And it's hilarious because the neighbors uphill planted all around the perimeter, and more up against the house, all kinds of roses and all kinds of shrubs, and then up the street they took out their whole front plantings, and they put in native species, and it's just spreading.
Feed your neighbors.
They have these big containers, and they come with lids, and the lids work as a tray underneath it perfectly. They're huge. I would say they're probably 40 gallon.
Wow.
So I drilled holes in the bottom, and I planted a bunch of those. And I did this side project. I wanted to show that it didn't take a lot of effort to feed somebody else.
Oh, nice.
So I called it a Porta Garden, rent a Porta Garden. So somebody would rent one of those gardens, those pots, and I would bring it over fully planted, and I would come over once a month and make sure, unless there was something that they, that wasn't thriving, I would fix. And, I had patio baby eggplants, and they're awesome. They're perfect for like 1 or 2 people. They're awesome. And tomatoes and different herbs in it. And I just planted it, and it went explosive. It was squash growing out the sides, and,
around the corner, there's a woman who moved in. I don't know who all with, but I've seen her out working on, she's taken over the whole corner, and she's got a farm stand where she puts her extra vegetables out on the farm stand for free for people to take.
I brought it down to
that whole area of the Pine Hills community is like alive now. It was never alive before. It
becomes so.
Right.
Yeah, it does.
Making a living.
The hook was that I found the floral market, and I'm making a living that I could not even have to leave the house. So I'm making a living on that, and the CSAs. People bought CSAs from me, and I'm thinking I'm going to have to turn down people this year because I'm not going to be able to produce enough for the people who are interested. So the CSAs and the floral market, and it's a living. It literally, and I go out there, and I work all day, but I sit down in the evening, and it's just like quiet, and all the noises that are in the neighborhood they just fall away, and it gets more magical every year.
It's like a bespoke Suzanne suit.
So here I have my mother on one end, and I'm meeting all these elderly people through her programs that are not able to get enough food or not
Mm.
in their own home getting enough food. And then on the other end of it, I'm raising my twin granddaughters who are now 16 and a half.
Wow.
And so I'm like, and the education system, they're in North Colony and they're not, it's almost an optional idea. The earth sciences, the natural sciences. And I was so insulted by that. I started writing a program that links the education system's coding system up to modules that they can plop on their internet, and teachers can then just go, I'm going to teach 4th grade botany, and they click on that and it automatically populates what they're required to report.
In the building industry, people like dismiss modularity because they think it's limiting, but what it does is it frees you up to be able to pick and choose what you want and then how you want to use it. So it's like Legos, right? You can build anything out of Legos if you have some creativity. So having the core modules gives people the stability to be creative.
Exactly. And I linked it up to funding sources. So the teachers would say, you know, if you wanted to do like a farm, a yard or a schoolyard farm, where would you go for money or seeds or soil, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Wow. So, Suzanne, that's amazing.
I'm teaching everything from seed starting and I'm doing it chemical free in the greenhouse. And that's unusual. And I'm teaching to a group of students who would not ordinarily have this kind of opportunity. Implementing the program as I think the original idea was, and they haven't been able to really implement. So I'm teaching, this is a vocational education program, and connecting with the associations that I've been an executive director for, like the Nursery and Landscape, and you know, making those connections so that students are getting the education and then contact with the industry, and the industry is gaining input into the curriculum. So yeah,
it sounds like somebody like crafted a Suzanne suit and put it on you.
I swear to God. And the thing is, I'm exhausted all the time, but I'm never working.
Limitless. There's so much in there. I mean, we've had other sessions, and Lauren weigh in here. We've had talks about how education needs to shift, and vocational education is definitely part of the shift, but also students creating their own curriculum based on, you know, they learn a little bit and then they say, what I really want to study is here.
Yep.
So that they're not hamstrung with a curriculum that somebody else designed for them.
Absolutely.
Which sounds like actually your life plan. Revealing the opportunities. The idea of producing flowers, and it came for you right at a time when the whole world was shutting down, meaning you couldn't access flowers from long distance. That's a huge opportunity, but it also shows that if you pay attention to the opportunities, you can address the bigger problems like reduction of toxins and reduction of carbon and creating community. That's really cool. Food first, then flowers.
Did the vegetables and like the more traditional CSA come first and then the flowers associated with COVID? Like, what was that time frame?
Well, I've always gardened. And when I came back here, I needed to, you know, have some sort of outlet. So I got the chickens so that I could produce compost.
Right.
And I started raised beds. And started planting at that point, just for myself and for my family. And so successful that I was just going around to the neighbors and handing out a lot throughout the season. A lot of them forgave the rooster I had one season because I was giving them all the produce. I went to town, you know, I would get up excited every morning to just throw on shorts and a t-shirt, and I would come in sweaty and covered in dirt and just exhausted and being bummed I was too tired to work more. So I told a few friends I was thinking about doing a CSA. Mine was a little bit different because I focused on herbs too. So not just, and herbs that I wanted to challenge the palate. So I grew a lot of herbs that are not traditional, and then I did a newsletter that,
Wow.
took pictures. No, it's not that hard. Took pictures.
No, but it's
of-
just like you keep adding on things that you've done, and I'm like, okay, when is the layering gonna stop? It's like,
Oh, well, you're creative, and people, I learned a long time ago, I'm an extremely visual person. So what I did is I would take a picture of what I caught that morning, and then I would write up a little blurb about where it came, where the herb originated
Nice.
from, what it's been used for in the past, and what you can use it for now. And I would just find a recipe and plop the recipe in there, and the people were thrilled with it.
See, that's great. You've combined like everything that matters, right? Communication, food, local, caring for somebody outside of your own network, which is what I think the newsletter does. It gives them an opportunity to be cared for and to care for their families. And you've kept it sounds like you've kept it fun for you, so it doesn't become an onerous kind of, sometimes things after a while become like rote.
I was worried about that because I love doing all of it, but it wasn't.
Community supported agriculture.
How many shares is your CSA?
This year I had 27. And
great.
it was a lot. It was a lot. But it was good. I learned some things. I set it up in the beginning. Everyone would come on Saturday morning, and not everybody, people will buy a CSA and forget.
Yeah.
And they do that more often than not.
Yep.
I have decided that this coming year, I'm going to pick 2 days where I'm delivering.
Nice. Portable gardens.
I'm like just dying to know more about this Porta Garden.
Yeah. I figured
So what I did is I set it up so that someone could buy it or rent it for the season, with all the plants in it for $75, because that covered the compost soil, and then any seedlings that plants that I put in it. And then I set it up so it would fund one that would go to someone that needed it. So they could ultimately say, I have an elderly neighbor who I think really would benefit from this, or my mother would love it, and it's small enough that it can sit on a patio. And they don't have to, like in the beginning of the season, I come and put it there. I come and fertilize every so often and make sure everything's going well. And at the end of the season, I just take it away.
Our students are required to do a service learning project in order to comply with their graduation requirements. And it's not you're not volunteering. It's a collaborative process, whereas both parties end up benefiting.
Yes, exactly.
And the students have historically told me that they learn more from the service learning project on multiple levels than maybe anything they learn in a classroom.
Good things create good ripples.
As you go through things, you influence other people.
Right.
One of the programs that used to provide education and guided employment for people with disabilities has really had a hard time in the last couple of years. It lost its state funding and had to go underneath another charity, and they weren't sure what they were gonna be providing. And I said, there's no composting around here, no organization large enough. The only one is Saratoga Sod, and they're very expensive. So if I were you, I would start a composting facility, and that's a huge career for anybody. That's a career for a healthy bodied person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that's what they're doing. And it's exciting because I need somebody who's going to provide me more compost.
Right.
Well, isn't it amazing that we just don't realize, and Lauren brought this up in another interview we had where where she read a study where younger students who were actually given the right to and the ability and the agency to plant in their own garden plots, they ended up being healthier as people physically because the bacteria in their system was actually beneficial bacteria. So you're creating a situation of education and also improved health by connection to the land. And
well, and to round it out further, like by way of your newsletter and what you're saying, like teaching people about local regional food, slow food cooking, that sort of thing. Oh,
hi kitten.
Slow food. And then that in turn also is like a feedback loop to a healthier lifestyle, right? I mean, the slow food movement, eating what you can grow.
Yeah.
Richness, capacity, and community. Back to the idea of like suburban gardens and victory gardens and actually the community connection. I think that we're missing out on so much richness and capacity and community because we don't grow food. And I live in this the spec housing area from the 1920s in Albany. So I'm in Albany, but it was the first suburbs of Albany. The yards are tiny, but they're certainly capable of producing food.
Yeah, they are. My grandmother lived on Sycamore Street off of actually between Whitehall and New Scotland Ave.
Oh yeah.
I connected to her so dramatically. She had a garden in her backyard, and my first experience of fresh out of the garden were her waxed beans and the way she cooked them for me. My mother at the time was not all that great with the kind of stuff, and it changed my world. But my grandmother, there's two things. My grandmother would tell me stories about, my mother's father was raised in Westchester, in Tuckahoe, actually, and they had a lot of land. It was a mix of cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And people were very used to being exposed to that mix of cultures, and they would try different foods, and they were grown in their own backyards. And my grandmother would tell me about how she found different varieties of tomatoes and went and asked them, how do you raise these? Because these are amazing.
Yeah.
And we've lost 92% of our original seed. Gone. The flavors they took for granted are gone forever.
Evident joy. There's joy in your face. There's joy in the way you're explaining this. There's so much in the way of co-benefits and understanding how your penchant for planting is feedstock for the bees that actually are part of our food system that benefit so many. I mean, you can't.
Not to mention 27 shares of produce, and then flowers. How many Porta Gardens did you do?
I think I ended up doing 8. 8. It wasn't a lot.
8 paid or 16 because it's a 1-and-1.
No, it was 8 paid. So 8. It was 6. Yeah. So
and boy, what a great way to do that.
That's a very far reach from 1 acre of land.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I want
and 1 person.
And it was so much fun.
1 person per acre. And think about it as climate change continues. California, for example, being one of the leading food and specifically produce producers in the United States, half of it is on fire at any given time. If 1 acre with 1 person on it in the rest of the country did what they did, food supply would be a non-issue.
Gifts for mom. So somehow your energy level has made an hour go by in a blink.
I know, it really has. And unfortunately, I would say let's go a little longer, but today's actually my mom's birthday.
So happy birthday, Mom.
Yeah. So we gotta go celebrate. Actually, I got her all garden related gifts.
That's cool.
I found these really cool. She always gets like ticks, and actually she always gets poison ivy when she's doing stuff. So they're these extra long gloves And like a new little garden apron that has like all these pockets and everything, and some garden soaps and
Cool.
soaps and that sort of thing. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
garden related birthday present.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Gardening and blogging heroes. Who's inspiring you right now? Is there someone that our viewers could also be inspired by that you want to share?
And the project is called the Bialtina Project.
That would
I
be great.
love her. Her name is Colette O'Neill. She is pretty much everything I believe, in phrasing up again, in terms of spirituality, in terms of learning.
Great.
She's written a few books. Yeah. So
Have you read her
she's
books, or is she on social media?
She's on, you can follow her on Facebook, on YouTube. The other, his name is just, I can't, it's he's British. It'll come to me in a second. He has established a method of planting that is just layering. It's not a no dig. It's called no dig.
Yeah.
And it's just layering on of compost year after year onto, he takes cardboard, lays it down. This is how a lot of my beds were done, because it's all clay out there.
Yeah.
With, 8 to 10 inches of compost on top of it in rows, and he plants in it, and he just studies. And Charles Dowding
Okay.
is the no dig.
No dig. Charles Dowding. Okay.
Yes. Gosh, she has been raising her own flowers and selling them for forever. And she's just so hilarious and so average, but so extraordinary.
Oh, that's great.
And I was into that.
I like the idea of somebody being absolutely normal and absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah.
And what's Suzanne's one big idea?
I think that people have forgotten how to converse. I think that people have forgotten how to just be a community. There's such a sense of outside of the community, because we're riding around in our little singly in our vehicles, and running into a store and not seeing anybody. And, we're on our technology. My grandmother could tell the most wonderful stories, and my grandfather, who was a golf pro, had amazing stories. And you don't hear people do that anymore. You don't hear someone telling another person a true story from beginning to end. And I think the loss of that has kind of caused a loss of personality to our culture.
So
And
well said.
I think, and that's what this is about for me.
Thanks for joining us for episode 40 with Suzanne Maloney. This has been Subject to Change, a sustainability podcast. Please like, subscribe, comment, and join us for another episode next week. All
awesome. Right. Suzanne, it was so great to meet you. Thank you so much.
I really had fun talking at you.
I can't wait to see more about what you do in the coming season.
Okay.